Quarter 4, Module 2, Identifying Parameters for Testing in Given Real-Life Problems. Parameters in statistics are important components of statistical analysis. In simple words, a parameter is any numerical quantity that characterizes a given population or some of its aspects. So meaning, again, katong ingon ako, parameter is a value that describes a population, while a statistic is a value that describes a sample or a portion of the population. A parameter denotes the true value. So, true value siya because gikuha gid nimo tanan yung data. Unlike statistic kay sample raman. So, examples of parameters are the central tendency, katong mean, median, mode. Parameters to siya. Especially kung parameters to siya pag nag-describe siya sa population yun. Standard deviation tells us, kabalo naman ta sa mean, median, mode, no? That it gives us an idea where the data concentrate, while the standard deviation tells us how the data are spread from the central tendency. So these are parameters. So in normal distribution, there are two parameters that can be characterized that can characterize a distribution: the mean and the standard deviation. By varying these two parameters, you can get different kind of normal distribution. So these are the parameters, and these are the measures, and these are the symbols niya. When you say mean, kung population siya, mu. Kung statistic lang siya, kung parameter siya, mu. Kung statistic lang siya, x bar. Variance, sigma squared. Kung parameter, statistic s squared. Standard deviation, sigma. Kung parameter, statistic s. Proportion is another measure. Kung parameter siya, p lang. Pero kung proportion, p hat. This is read as p hat. Mean and standard deviation are the two common parameters. So identifying parameter to be tested. So the height of, again, illustrate some examples. The average height of adult Filipinos 20 years older is 163 cm for males. So unsa ang parameter diha? So ang parameter diha actually is the average height of the adult Filipinos 20 years and older. So kung gusto nimo i-test ang hypothesis, then you can say in symbol na mu is equivalent to 163. Because this is average height man sa tanan Pilipinos. So mu ang gamiton. What about kani? A grade 11 researcher reported that the average allowance of senior high school students is 100 pesos. A sample of 40 students has a mean allowance of 120 pesos. At alpha equals to 0.01 test, it was claimed that the students had allowance of 100. The standard deviation of the population is 50 pesos. So asa karon diha ang parameter nga i-test? So ang parameters are, ang parameter is the average allowance of the senior high school students na 100. Again, parameter is sa population, dili ning 120. Kay kaning 120 is the mean of the sample raman. So kaning 100. So therefore, mu is equivalent to 100. Mao tong parameter na to. So grade 11 students reported, tama man eh. So in this claim, there are different parameters used, but the parameter to be tested in this hypothesis would be the average allowance of senior high school students, since it relates to the population, not in sample. Statistical hypothesis is a conjecture about the population parameter. That's why you will look for population mean, population standard deviation, or population proportion, not sample mean. So, motong ingon ako. So, dili ni si 120. Instead, si 100. Kasi 120 is just the sample mean, not the population mean. Next is, according to survey, 63% of the parents are willing to spend extra money for their children's health and education matters. So for this situation, our parameter is the percentage or the proportion of parents who are willing to spend extra money in their child's health and education matter. So in symbol, that is P. Basta percentage or proportion, P is equivalent to 0.63. So, in short, to identify parameters to be tested, just look for the mean or average, standard deviation, variance, and proportion of the population dapat. Kay parameter man gani, no? Then determine the value that pertains to the given parameter. Then translate them in symbols by hypothesis testing. So that's all for identifying parameters for testing in given real-life problems. Thank you and see you next session.